Our next presenter is Sophia Cannonier.
Good evening. Good evening. Oh, thank you for letting me do this. I started off as a ballet dancer, and I danced professionally with the Dance Theater of Harlem. Thank you. I returned home because I wanted to make a difference in my country. I wasn't ready to have children when I moved home to Bermuda, but I realized that my mother had instilled in me very important information, which was that she had given birth at home, that birth was normal and natural, and that it was a very private event. I met my husband, Michael, here in Bermuda. He's from England. And when I told him that we were going to have a home birth, he was like, okay. I've not always been this dominant, but I think that the most important part of having a home birth, outside of being healthy, so we need to make sure that we are of healthy mind and body, but you must have a strong partner. Of all the home births that I have attended and helped support in Bermuda, the hardest thing for the woman to do is to encourage her husband to allow her to have a home birth, which is ridiculous. Thank you, husband. This is Ina Mae Gaskin, and she is America's foremost midwife. She had a caravan in California, traveled all around the U.S. Her husband just recently passed away, but he was Stephen Gaskin of Monday Night Talks, and I traveled to the farm, and I was pregnant with my second daughter at that time, and she touched my belly. This is me sitting on South Shore, and the most radical thing a woman can do, is to own her own body. And I've been in my body for a long time, and no one's going to tell me how to birth my baby. Also, I started Pilates in Bermuda, and I found that I was teaching midwives, and they had no idea what their body was, so how were they going to tell me how to deal with my own body? The beautiful thing about home birth is that your children can participate. Our first home birth, there were no midwives on the island that I wanted at my birth. They were all employed in the hospital. So my husband caught our son, and he went, oh, what's that? And I said, just don't drop the baby. It's fine. So I thank you. This is me in the tub. Yes, home birth is intimate, and I am very proud of my body. This is us catching video. And in our very small living room, we do not have a grand house. Our house is a 16th size of this room, and we put a birth tub in it. 8 years ago, I flew in Barbara Harper on my own expense. Barbara Harper travels the world to integrate water into hospitals, birth tubs, simple things. And so you can do it too. This is Vidya having her first diaper on our kitchen table, and my husband doing it. By our second baby, which is Vidya here, we did find that there was a Bermudian midwife by the name of Tandy Dean Gray who chooses not to practice in Bermuda because it's just not the right territory for her. She can't work in the environment in the hospital. So I wore my shirt, "Birth is not an illness," and she took the picture. The beautiful thing also about home birth is that children can be present. My son was not present for our second birth, but he came in a few minutes later. This is Barbara Harper at the hospital. Dr. Eugene Outerbridge is actually there. No obstetricians, no midwives attended this lunch and learn, but I did get her in there. All the other staff of the hospital who were available did come in, and she just taught them why water works. This is a big slide here. But basically, warmth and buoyancy decreases the catecholamines, which are the things that make you stressed, and reduces muscle tension and anxiety, right? We live in Bermuda. We live in an island. Who goes to Horseshoe Bay to relax in the summer? We all do. So why can't women have birth in water? Why can't you just build a hospital with a water tub? And there's no water tub in our hospital, and no women were asked what they wanted. Recently, I attended, over the summer we had 12 home birth candidates. And one of the first women spent 3 hours in the hospital and was charged $8,000. And it was a straightforward birth. She got there at 6, she left at 9, and her bill was $8,000. Home birth doesn't have to be $6,000. It depends on how many people you share the costs of bringing in the midwife for. We are working on having Bermudian midwives. This is By the time I was pregnant with my third birth, I was like, this is ridiculous. I'm watching home birth videos from around the world. No one in Bermuda believes that they can have a home birth. So I just said, right, I'm flying in a film crew and we're going to film it ourselves. So our third baby, this is in our backyard. No, we do not live in a grand place. These are curtains from Gibbons and lights and our little Buddha plaque, a birth tub with a slight hole in it, right, Michael? We had to blow it up. And I just, I had my head wrapped because I knew I had a film crew. I had a Sasha Blackburn, the photographer there. I had 2 doulas, my husband. My kids were upstairs, and we had someone watching them. I just needed privacy. But when I got in that water, oh my gosh, I can just feel that now. Excuse the nudity, but it's my body and my baby, my birth, and I'm here to share that with you. This is me catching my own daughter. Her head is coming out. She crowned at 4 a.m. and by 4:04 she was out into our loving hands. My son felt quite hard to come out because it was his first time. My daughter felt like a jellyfish, and she came out. Inanna came out like a bullet, and she quacked. That was her first sound. So here she is, cord still attached, pink, rosy. She still looks like that. She's over there. And that's a loving midwife's hand. Now, this is our placenta. Sorry, the bathrooms are outside. This is not medical waste. This is something that all mammals should honor. The hospital, I've actually heard a story that one obstetrician used to take the placentas home before there was this blood law and used to put them all over his roses, and he has the best roses. That's what I've heard. So I actually encapsulate, my friend doula encapsulated my placenta. I was too busy breastfeeding and dealing with 2 children, but my friends did mine, and I actually encapsulate for anyone, whether I'm their doula, their midwife assistant, or they just call me, and I'll make sure I get their placenta and do that. I'm sure somebody will have questions about why. The last picture was graciously taken by Sasha Blackburn, who's a dear friend, and I was her doula, and the circle just keeps going. So since I was actually the dancer at Dance Theater of Harlem and all throughout my career, I always believe that you should be the change, not wait for someone else to do it. Be the change. It doesn't matter what kind of radical thing people call you. I don't really care, and I think that we all should be the change. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Sophia. Do you have any questions here? Did you wanted to ask a question?
All right, Sophie.
Hi, Ayo. Ayo took our first photograph. He came to our house and took a picture of Robbie when we were front page on the newspaper 10 years ago. Thank you, Ayo. Your question.
Okay, so I'm quite embarrassed to say I've been trying to figure out for the last 10 years what happened in Bermuda, history, politically, economically, because most people in the world don't have a concept of home birth because they don't go to the hospital anyway to have children, right? So what happened in Bermuda at some point when all of that changed? And I don't know the answer to that. My second question is, what radical things have you been called?
What radical things have I been called? I'll answer the first question. In my studies, in my kind of research, what I think happened is in the 1970s, the alternative to the midwife, because the midwife was the original childbirth professional. The midwife was being pushed out. You remember the picture of Ina May Gaskin? Those midwives were being pushed out, and the new obstetrician, who is a surgeon, they were coming out of school and they needed to have people to practice on. And the midwives, you can do your research, they were being shunned out of society and they weren't clean enough, they were of ethnic origin, we had racism, still do, but we were, black people in Bermuda, they had to birth at home because they were not the right color. And now it used to be, birthing at home used to be a poor person's dilemma. It's now a rich person's privilege. So it's just twisted. So I think the answer is that the doctors, the white coats, were coming in and needing to have people to practice on, welcoming you to the hospital, and we became dumbed down as a society and lost our power to choose. and therefore it's 4 generations now have lost it. So I'm here to. What have I been called? I mean, people don't want to work with me. They don't want to, I mean, they're afraid to come, like, oh, don't go to her class. She'll tell you to have a home birth. Like, damn right I will. Have a home birth. So I have 1 or 2 people in my class, but I don't really care because I've had 42 home births, and everybody who's had a home birth, whether they've had to be transferred to the hospital for various reasons, or whether they have...
We have one more question.
Yes,
here.
for various reasons, meaning safety, we do not skimp on safety, and there's a midwife sitting in the room. So if you want a question on safety, you can ask her after. Hi.
Hi, good night. I have a question regarding lifting the baby out of the water after the water birth. How do you determine when's the right time to actually pull them out? Do you wait? Do you not wait? Is there anything? What's that process like?
I'm not a midwife. In my experience as a mother and as a person who's watched and studied birth, the right time is when the baby is ready, and the baby will make some reflex movement. There are some places in Ostend, in Europe, they have studied this in kind of clear tanks, and they've kept the baby underwater for a longer time, and it's very uncomfortable to watch. But one thing is for sure, when you bring the baby up, and when the air hits the baby's skin, you never put the baby back under, because we are perfectly made. And as soon as the air hits our skin, we begin to switch over to breathe.
All right, another
so
question?
That's the right time.
Hi, Sophia.
Hi.
My question is, you mentioned the costs of home birth versus in the hospital, and you said it was about $8,000 for someone in the hospital, and 10,000, and then 6,000 as a home birth.
Yes.
And I was wondering, does that take insurance into account, and is home birth covered by insurance?
Home birth is covered by insurance. Colonial is the only company in Bermuda who respects and honors home birth. Fully covered for the midwife services. Argus, we're still waiting to come along. BF&M still waiting to come along, and Friesenbrook-Meyer no longer do medical. As far as coverage, because there is a Bermudian midwife. Her name is Lisa Blyden. She's wonderful. She works in the hospital because there aren't enough home birthers to get her out of the hospital yet, to give her the business. So there are Bermudian midwives. I'm not interested in becoming midwife. I just want to be radical. So that's fine. I just want all the knowledge, and I'll get somebody else to do it.
You have another question?
So Colonial covers the midwife fee. The other expenses are the equipment, which are the tubs, and so on. My services I'm a wedding planner, a birth planner, so I have to help organize. I'm there as the midwife, second in hand, and then there's per diem, there's airfare. We do accommodation for free because we have a home birth community. So if you cancel out all of those incidentals, the fee is about $3,000, and the hospital, like I said, for a normal vaginal birth to get a bill for $8,000, that's ridiculous.
Okay, we have one more question.
Oh, hi, Sophie.
Hi.
You've practically invited us to ask about the encapsulated afterbirth. Can you talk about that, please?
Sure, yes. It's advisable for women. Unfortunately, Pitocin is used like candy. It's a synthetic form of oxytocin. Oxytocin is the hormone that courses through your veins when you're having an orgasm or when you are very, very happy and elated. It's what keeps birth going. So it's a natural thing that makes contractions happen. Unfortunately, a lot of people have Pitocin, and you can go and do your research about the effects of Pitocin on a child's brain, and links to autism, but that's another question. Hopefully the woman has not had Pitocin or any other synthetic form of pethidine, any kind of drug, so that the placenta is clean. Yes, I take it properly from the hospital or from the home birth in Ziploc gallon bags. I bring it home to my sterilized kitchen, and I then proceed to clean it, wash it. I have to carve it. I'm a vegetarian of 25 years. I then put it in my dehydrator, which is only for placentas. It dehydrates for 8 hours. This is the enzyme way, and meaning the raw method. And then what I do is put it in my Vita mixer, which is only for placentas, and I grind it up, and I have a little placenta encapsulation. Put it in the placenta encapsulation, which is a little handheld thing, and I put it in a beautiful bottle and give it back to the mom within a week.
Okay.
She uses it for her she can, like for me, I didn't need it for milk production, but I can use it for my own menopause because it's my own hormones. I don't need to take a pregnant mare's urine for my own menopause. And some people use it for postpartum depression to ward it off. And others use it for milk supply. And also to bring the body back from a yin state, from a very yang back to yin state, because you've just had a void giving birth. So it's a very powerful. All mammals, other than us, eat their placenta. So
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I loved it. This is perfect for anybody who has a passion and needs to be, that passion needs to be exposed. So I felt this, I really could not prepare for this. It was just, it came out of my pores, something I've been wanting to say. And it was really lovely to put together all of the family photographs from the last 10 years. It was emotional, but it was also, it fired up a lot of energy again, because this is very hard work, what I'm doing, and I really hope it inspires more people, more women, to take control of their own lives and their own destiny and have their baby the way they want it, because it is their bodies and it is their money. Yeah. Attend one first. Come and feel the vibe. Come and feel how organic it is, how supportive it is. And there's, yes, that's what I did. I attended the North Village when it was up at North Village, the last one, and I just felt moved. And I think that the organizers saw that I was moved. I didn't say much, but I just stood up. I wanted to do it, so I sent them an email. So do attend one, come and feel the vibe, not be afraid, and speak from your heart. You can't really write anything down. Just find some beautiful images and speak your truth. Ladies and gentlemen of Bermuda, this is midwife Susan Castle, who is responsible for some of the most beautiful home births and overseeing, supporting, and also recruiting some wonderful midwives to Bermuda. And here's Susan. Maybe she would like to say a few words to our women.
So it was fabulous to see Sophia give her very personal, courageous presentation on home birth and the rights of women to have home birth, and it's something she's been fighting for 10 years. I feel honored to be included and to walk alongside her in the options for women to give birth in Bermuda. And it's not for every woman, and it's not required, but as an option, it's a very important component of women's choice and women's power to own their own lives, their own bodies, and their own births, which Sophia summed up incredibly beautifully. So home birth has not risen percentage-wise for about the last 20 years, and just recently it's starting to increase in the United States, which is where I live. More and more midwives are becoming available, and as women get educated about their options, and we have insurance that's starting to cover it, which has been a big block for women to have to pay out of pocket, it is increasing. We have quite a few studies, randomized controlled gold standard studies, that show that low-risk women who are well qualified for home birth do just as well, if not better, at home than they do in the hospital. So it is increasing, and we can thank Sophia that it's even an option in Bermuda.